Hi, this is Chef Bruce Wood working with Bryson Farms. We're going to make a dish for you today of creamed corn with bacon and onions and stock and cream. If you want to make the recipe vegan, that's just fine. I would substitute coconut milk for this and vegetable stock for the dairy and leave the bacon out. If you really want, you can add some smoked tempeh to give it that nice smoke flavor, or smoked paprika. So the first thing is to cook your bacon. I have some nice cube bacon here. It's already partially cooked. So once that's going nicely and it's nice and crisp, you pour off all the fat except for 2 tablespoons. Then I'm gonna add some butter, because why not? We're all in a lockdown, let's have a little bit of decadence with dinner. This is a wonderful side dish for a roast chicken, or some nice cider brine pork chops, or even just roast chicken thighs on a weeknight. It happens very quickly. Now I have some diced onions and garlic, and I just add that to the pan, minus the container. And I give that a good stir and start to try and get just a little bit of color into there to bring out the flavor. At this point, this is where I would add either the smoked tofu or smoked tempeh, and then let that cook out for a minute. It doesn't have to be rendered like the bacon because obviously it has no fat. So once we've got that all going and your kitchen's starting to smell absolutely glorious, just add a little pinch of dried chili flakes. I use these in almost everything in the kitchen, as much or as little as you think you want to add. And then I add some chicken stock cubes, and I turn the heat up a little bit, just to bring that around. Now, the reason why in this case the stock cubes look like ice cube trays is because when we make stock at home, any stock, chicken, beef, vegetable, we freeze it in ice cube trays in the freezer and then pop it into baggies. And then when we want to make a dish like this, we just pull out the 2 or 3 cubes we need, because there's always leftover bones from something. Even those supermarket rotisserie chickens, if you're having a weeknight when you don't feel like cooking and you grab one of them, take the carcass, throw it into about 1 liter of water with some whatever veg scraps you have on hand, and make a quick liter of stock. And it's better than water if you're making a risotto or a rice pilaf or something like this. So once this all starts to come around nicely, we're gonna add in some of Stuart's beautiful corn. This is gorgeous. The flavor of this is like nothing you've ever tasted. It's sweet and rich. You can actually eat it raw. It's so beautiful. You can eat it in salads, all sorts of things. So once we've got this going nicely, I'm gonna turn the heat up even more, and I'm gonna add a little bit of salt and pepper, but I'm also gonna taste it at the end for salt and pepper, because if you add too much now with all the reducing you're doing, you could very easily over season it. So once this is all going really nicely, and you can hear some nice sizzling, just add your cream. And now that has to be whipping cream. You can't boil any other kind of cream. It must be whipping cream. So let that come around and let it come to a boil. And then we're gonna just let it go for a minute or so while it thickens. And you can see how lovely that is. It's just, there you go, 3D. It's beautiful. And that's coming together nicely. And the thing is that when you cook things like this is how fast it happens. But this is also the method you should use. It's called mise en place, and it means everything in its place. So before I even started cooking, I had everything beside me, beside the stove, and I was absolutely ready to go. And then it's just 1, 2, 3, and everything happens in a jiff. You can even do this if you let's say you did some nice pan-seared pork chops or boneless chicken thighs. Take them and pop them in a very low oven to stay warm, and cook this in the same pan. You've only used 1 pan. You pick up all the flavors in the pan, and it's gonna taste absolutely delicious. Now, once that starts to come to a bubble, and it is starting to come to a bubble, I'm gonna add my fresh herbs. Today I have chives and fresh thyme. You can add summer savory, you can add rosemary. I use all the sort of more earthy herbs. I wouldn't necessarily use things like tarragon or dill. They're a little too flowery and perfumey for this sort of dish. You want a kind of a nice earthy rusticity here going on. So there we go. We start to let that come down and simmer nicely. And then as it happens, we're gonna just take this. That cream wants to come down just a bit. If you want to get really decadent, you can always add a little bit of grated Parmesan to this. The other thing you can do, if you really want to bump it up and make it really interesting, is you can add a cup or two of cubed roasted squash and some cooked white beans, black-eyed peas, anything, and make a succotash. And it's also kind of like the Three Sisters. It's really delicious and really quite wonderful. So then we're just going to take that and we're going to tip it into a bowl and we're all set. And you just serve that. And this makes enough. I've made enough here for healthy portions for 4 people with a little bit of leftovers. We always like to cook with leftovers and then there's stuff for lunch the next day. So there we go. That's all ready to go. And you can see how lovely and delicious that is. It's just gorgeous. So that's the cream corn. I believe the recipe will be on the website. You'll be able to find it, and you can order the corn in your weekly basket from Stuart. And this has been a cooking adventure with corn and Bryson Farms. Have a great afternoon. You're still running.